Thanks, Laura.
Of course. Let me make you the host.
Okay, that went really well.
Yeah, I thought it did. Such an interesting, wait, why did these people go away? Oh, did you just, oh, because I can't see them. Is it showing people in the weight room for you now?
Yes, those are the two presenters.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, but I don't know anyone from AMCHP. So like, if they pop up, I'm just gonna assume that they're from AMCHP.
That is fine. Here, let me see if can you make me a co-host? Did I do that? Or no, that's reclaiming host.
That's you, right? There you go.
Okay, perfect. That's great, because then what I can do is during the session itself, I can, because what was happening during that time for me is there's like people in the waiting room like coming through, and so that can be a little bit stressful, like having to watch that. So I can help you out by like letting people in during the Q&A.
Okay. Is it set up right now so there's a waiting room, right?
Yep. And so the other thing that I was doing was chatting the folks in the waiting room to say, thank you for joining. We're going to open up this room at the end of after the recording.
Gotcha.
Some of the language I sent you had that.
Let me just message these two people, like, thank you for.
We can let them in because they're
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any questions before we get started? Because essentially what you'll want to do is just tell them what I told them at the beginning of like, we're hanging out, we're gonna watch the video.
I think I'm okay. Is anyone from AMCHP gonna join?
I don't think so, because you and I are the main supports for this.
Okay.
And so folks might start joining the weight room come like 5 o'clock because there's that option.
Okay.
But we should be good otherwise.
Okay. And then I'm gonna, I'll have to come up with a couple questions, I guess, during the video.
Yeah, that's just what I did, was just so that we had some in case like there was a couple quiet moments. But I can also come up with some as I watch the video too. So I can help with that.
I think it'll be fine then.
You're gonna be great. I think it's gonna be so good.
Okay, we'll admit them.
Okay, perfect.
Hello. Also, there you go. Elvira, right? Hi.
Hi.
And then also, am I pronouncing your name right, Elvira?
Elvira.
Elvira, thank you. And then also Josie, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming. Have you guys already done one of these presentations before?
No.
Okay, so essentially what's going to happen is we're going to hang out on this Zoom call, and you guys can feel free to mute yourselves and turn off your cameras. And we're at 5 o'clock, the video is going to open up on our website. So we'll be watching the video through that platform essentially, and people will submit questions, and also there will be a section for us to have a discussion as well. So people will be typing in where they're from and things that they're learning about the video itself. And then afterwards, I'm going to drop a link to this Zoom chat, and people will join from the discussion after watching the video.
So do we just stay on this link the whole time?
Yeah, so you two will just stay on this link, and you can feel free to mute yourselves and turn off your cameras, and we'll be watching the video, but on here.
Could you make sure that it's Elvira Dennison and Gloria Dennison on one video link over there, they're together, and they're in the video as well?
For what part of the video? Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
There are 4 of us are presenting in the video, actually. Myself, Ray Deal, who is on compassionate leave right now, Elvira Dennison, who you just saw, and Gloria Dennison is with Elvira, all 4 of us on the panel. But after discussing with Gloria earlier, only Elvira and Gloria will be on the Q&A.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much. then I can probably put something also in the chat or like in the discussion to clarify that as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you. What will happen is the video as you pre-recorded it is going to play exactly how you recorded it. So if they're all presenters, that's great. And then for the Q&A portion, when we switch over, if you want, you can introduce yourself, Josie, but say that they're going to answer the questions. Essentially, we just came from one, so I can share how it works. All of the participants will come over, and while they're watching the movie, the participants have the chance to ask questions and write them in a kind of like a chat. And so we'll ask those questions as well as give folks a chance to ask additional questions during the Q&A portion. And so 5 o'clock Eastern time, so in 8 minutes, is when the video will become viewable. And so what we do is, I haven't looked yet at how long your video is, but let's say your video is 45 minutes. At 40 minutes after the hour, we put in the chat or into the chat the link to this Zoom room, and then folks from there will come into here. So we are just gonna stay here, but on your own computer, you can watch the conference recording, and then we'll come together again at, whenever your video is done, and that's when we'll do the question and answer.
so Vi and Gloria, keep this link open, and then you can use your other screen to watch the video. So you can click the other screen to view that. Vi, is that doable? So keep this link open all the time.
Okay.
Also, I'm not going to be on the Q&A at all. It'll just be Elvira and Gloria for the Q&A. So I hope that's okay. It doesn't throw anything askew or anything.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for letting us know so I know who to address.
Sure. I'm just going to stay on for a little bit on this link, but sometime during the video, I'm going to go.
Of course, no worries.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us know.
Sure. Vi and Gloria, you guys good? Because we are grassroots, and we are totally not about message control, and you guys have a lot to say already. Bye.
Yeah.
You feeling okay?
Yeah. My mom's trying to get on.
I guess she could get on using your credentials. You have to give your mom your credentials if she wants to get on her own. Is she signing on with your credentials, Vi?
I think so.
I think you should.
Another room.
So I think you need to give her your login access key.
It's also okay, I think, if you both want to just share one screen. If you both want to respond to questions that way. It doesn't have to be 2 separate screens if you both are together.
I think Gloria wants her own screen, it looks like.
That's okay. Either way is totally fine.
Does your mom have your access key?
Hold on. Let me go check.
I can also, let me share the link to the invite here. Is there a good email for you that I could send, that you could send to, or here, I'll just chat it in to the chat here. And then Josie, would you be able to send it to Gloria?
Oh, yeah, Vi, just make sure your mom has the Zoom link. I don't think she needs any access key or nothing.
Yeah, she just needs this Zoom link. And then if you two together want to watch the video on the video recording, then that will work as well.
Okay.
Are you able to log on to the AMCHP conference? Oh, perfect. I see her joining. Are you able to log on to the AMCHP conference platform?
I think we've all been watching different sections today.
Okay, great. So then what you'll just want to do is, so if you go in and you select, we are B6. So if you want to go in, select B6 and then click play video. The video is available now because it's 5 minutes before. So,
Elvira, does your mom have 2 screens like you?
Let me hook her up.
Yeah, so I'm going to email her the AMCHP. So sorry for this.
oh, you're fine. This is why you're perfect. We have time. No one is going to be joining this link until for 40 minutes. So you're perfect. This is why we ask folks to come on early. So no need to say sorry. Really, it's great.
I'm going to be emailing her the AMCHP. Yeah, it's a bit unexpected that Gloria will want her own link, but that's completely understandable because of the
Why I met them. Laura. Is this someone from AMCHP?
No, it's not. So you can just leave
Okay.
the person in the waiting room. Yeah.
Thank you.
And what we can do is if more folks join, or I'm happy to, I can message them to just say, watch the video and then we'll bring them over.
Stop video.
Okay, Gloria, I just emailed you the login for the other thing, which is the video that you can watch. Make sure to keep this link open, and then you can watch our video on the other screen. And then I also gave you the login access. See if you can go in.
I'm going to start to play the video in 1 minute, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So we can actually watch it through this. We don't have to log into the video. We can actually watch it like this.
So
I'm gonna, we each play it on like different screens.
I
So
see.
I won't be playing it through here.
Got it.
if Josie, if that would be helpful, I have done that before for presenters. If it's the easiest way, I could share my screen and we could watch it together here.
Yes, I think that's better than all this shifting around for Gloria and Vi. Gloria, forget it. Just stay on this. And Laura's going to share her screen to watch our video.
Great.
Shimon, Vi, don't mess around with the other stuff. Just stay on this one. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So what we're going to do, the only thing that needs to happen is if everyone could mute themselves. I guess it doesn't have to be that way, but I'm going to go ahead. Let me share my screen. All right. So hopefully you can see this. Can you see it? Can folks see my screen?
Yes, I
Yes,
can
you
see
did.
it. Yeah, we can. Everybody mute, okay?
Okay, so I'm going to start playing it now.
Hello, my name is Ray Deal. When we do our get-togethers or anything we do, we always start with a blessing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Nasta shama baka na shago swanelo way yo shetrade swanelo ta kwitina shago sheketle way nasta shama baka Bakana shago shares one long way. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. We are the Navajo Family Voices program, and this presentation is about the advice Diné families give to one another. My name is Josie, and I'm I administer the program, and I've worked on the Navajo Nation in different capacities for 22 years, although I'm not from here. And I've known Ray for almost as long as that. And would you like to introduce yourself?
In Navajo, we always introduce ourselves with a clan system, and it's always done in Navajo also. Touching in Shino, my excuse me, but it's chain. When I need that's nalo shin that's a chain. Tohalan holgede ade asanasha. I'm from a community called Todelina. It's a real small little place. That's where I'm from. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Bye, you want to go?
Hi, my name is Elvira Dennison. I am going to introduce myself and my clan. I've come from a community of Nos Chitty, New Mexico on the Navajo Reservation. I'm a family mentor that works with families with children with healthcare needs. I'm also part of very active in our school district with Central Consolidated School District.
Hello, my name is Gloria Dennison. I am from Nashchiri, New Mexico. It's a rural area out on the Navajo Reservation, but I have served with other elected capacity as a leader, as well as have worked with all our Navajo Nation Reservation elected officials. So I'm here from as being a part of the Navajo Family Voice.
Sorry. Thank you, Gloria and Elvira. Navajo Family Voices is a program that serves tribal, rural families, and there's always a lot of animals. So today we're talking about a project that occurred at the height of the COVID pandemic on the Navajo Nation. We were doing wellness checks with families and knew that a major issue was the isolation for the families, and also difficulty with childcare, and a lot of mental health issues as well. And so the fall and winter of 2020 seen from now seems really far away. But at the time, the reservation was in a kind of a crisis. Elvira, you want to talk about that period of time? It just seems very removed now that we're talking about our project. It just seems a really long time ago.
During the pandemic, the families had experienced a situation to where they had to figure out ways to manage their home life with their families and their children because of a lot of area where we live were shut down, and the families had to situate where the children would be taken care of, how they were able to provide for the families with necessities. It was a barrier for families to be able to figure out ways to survive and to balance that out with amongst one another to take care of their children. And childcare wasn't available. Food was another thing that they struggled to have access to. A lot of the places were closed because of the COVID, and finding ways to maneuver around by attending appointments, going to the store. It was difficult for them too. We experienced that we had a curfew. The curfew only allowed us to have 10 hours to be out there to access, be able to go for our appointments, our necessity runs, or to be seen at the hospital. And it was a difficult time at that time, and there was a high need of resources to provide to families, and making home calls to families and wanting to know what their needs are when they had a special needs child, and providing that type of resources to them was easier for them to access, because we did have barriers with internet. Not all the families have internet, and the limited data that they have with their phones, and the limited source of incomes every month. And these are the struggles that families had to deal with during the pandemic. So we did provide a program to be able to hear from the families and what they thought about what childcare advice that they want to give other families during the pandemic. It had grounded the families to be able to get to know their children and what healthcare needs that they provide, and be able to depend on each other to provide those services to their children. The school was shut down, and it was a major shock for families to figure out ways to balance their life during the pandemic. And we did get families to give us their input on these projects that we have available. And we didn't expect a big outcome with that, which was very good for us. And they wanted their voice heard. And it was a very emotional time for families to express what they're dealing with. It is also another project where we did see an outcome to where it did comfort them in a way that we were there to listen to them, and through mental health to bring it out, to be aware of what they're dealing with within their own home.
Sure.
So that's.
So there was no place to meet. I remember in that time, government was shut down for as long as 18 months. So people would usually gather at the chapter to share advice, but now all meetings were shut down, right?
Yes.
Um,
But then, because of the closures of the public facilities, families were reaching out to the local chapters, to the local programs, and those offices were shut down, and they were reaching out to figure out where they can get those resources available.
right.
And I think that's how we stepped in and trying to find out if families are okay. And a lot of the students that we provide services to for healthcare needs, we're being taken care of by family members, grandparents, uncles and aunts, older sisters, uncles or brothers.
Mhm.
So we kind of assisted them during a time of need.
So, we were actually approached to pay professional childcare on the reservation, but there was none at all. There is no professional childcare facility other than Head Start or those types of programs, which were all shut down during the pandemic. But then as we reached out to people, we knew that these families of extended families were finding very inventive ways to look after themselves. And it turns out that they wanted very much to share what they were doing and advise other people, but there was no avenue. And at the same time, people don't have internet. They can have their cell phones, they can read emails, right? But long Zooms, people were not able to. So with the school district, we got the word out to families, asking them would they give advice to each other, and then we could give them stipends off of the grant. And the funders said they would do that, since the entire area, which is as large as West Virginia, so it's really big, has no professional childcare facility. So they said we could do this project and see what the response was. And right within one week, we got almost 400 responses with very detailed essays. It was, in fact, it was so many, we were overwhelmed and we got quite frightened. Elvira, you remember this? It's really hard to recall after all this time, but we were so scared of such an avalanche of response. And every one of them just wanted to advise each other because there was no physical place to meet. And the surge was so big on the reservation. Do you remember any of that? I mean, is it still present?
Well, the families at that time were frightened and they isolate themselves at home, and they're very cautious about the elders and the special needs students. And the families did express that they missed each other, the gatherings. So what they did was try different avenues to communicate with the families that they had support with before the pandemic. So they did express that frequent phone calls to their grandchildren, families. Some were able to try Zoom. On a daily basis, they would call with each other to support each other with what they're dealing with. And a lot of some of the families, what I found out, were employed in their city limits, and the children were going to school there. But because of lack of childcare facilities open, they had change the location of their children to the reservation to have families take care of them while they're still partly working in the city limits. And that took a lot of mental health issues that they dealt with. Their lives had normally been normal, but it changed drastically because of the pandemic. And a lot of time, there was a time where I did talk to families, and the response of them just to lend an ear to listen to them was very emotional, and they felt a relief that someone was there to listen to them with the struggles that they're dealing with, and providing that support and providing the resources of local food distributions, PPE distributions, and other what was available during the pandemic. And it was a constant call every week that I received that their need of resources.
I just wanted to speak on behalf of what the Navajo people out in the rural areas on the reservation has dealt with reference to the reaction of this pandemic from the beginning. Okay, from the past experience that we had with them is that the understanding was very difficult for them to keep up with it, because it practically looked like there's no direction as to how to address a lot of these resources that are out there, until I believe we kind of got organized to where we understood, who's going to be the players on the reservation to understand. And that's where all these shutdowns came up, to help them understand that we need to do certain things that way to lessen the numbers and the possibility of getting back in the green color across the reservation. So to some extent, from the beginning, the people on the reservation took it as probably hard emotionally as to what they were for, but within this time, it was somewhat unusual to bring up and talk about issues until it started picking up people and relatives. And based on that, I think it was something that was for real, that has come across the reservation. So because of that, we went through the process of who would be the leaders in the community aspects, to understand who can speak to it and who can also organize in the community to stabilize the understanding of what is taking place, which entails the elderlies, adults, the children, the infants that we have, and the yet to born, get these little ones. So we took it upon ourselves just to talk to one another through whatever resources that we could find for the people out there, and transmit those locally. And to some extent, it took a while, but it took several months to understand that, until to the point to where, since the facilities that we used to resort to as a community services, they were shut down. So we have to go outside that aspect of reaching out to the people in the community, either be like just communication through telephone or Zoom with the families, or Facebook. Some of them have used those. So a lot of those was across the board, but we still had some problems with our internet. So with little they have, they tried to communicate with that process. So with that, I believe that our people have really struggled with the process of how to overcome this pandemic. And then the other part of it is actually just to pinpoint how it affects them. When an individual would have that status of coming upon with a positive case, that was very difficult. It was very difficult to have the family come forth to state that they're in that position. Some of them, they don't know where to go, so they contact organizations like the Navajo Family Voices to get resources and on what to do with it. And we receive calls through the process and try to cope with them. And on top of that, it's the elderlies that don't really understand English. We have to communicate with them in Navajo and have a better understanding and explain to them what this is all about. And I think majority of the elderlies were pretty well traumatized by it. So we kind of had to stabilize and talk to them in a way to where they have a better understanding and not to have them be afraid of everything that is coming through. So it's just a matter of educating them as to what's going on. So majority of the elderlies who are in my status that could understand and speak that both languages, we try to pull in and talk to them in that way, so they have a better understanding with their grandkids that are out there as well. And then the only thing that has really, really impacted them at home is that some of the schools were still operating, but at the same time, there was reluctancy for them to attend schools. And they remain at home, and we try to work with them through the internet process or through virtual programs. But that still was difficult for them to connect. And that was a big challenge for us. And it's a setback for our young folks, because to this day, when you hear our children talking, our grandkids talking, that are going back in class in person, and we've been dealing with this for 2 years. And the question they raise is that, how far behind are they? Are they sure that they can pass with whatever that was given to them throughout this pandemic? Are they ready to take their state tests and to pass all this? That's the issue that they're bringing up right now, current status. So it's a big question for them right now to understand where they're at and where they're going. They express those type of information across the board right now, across the districts. I believe it's all across statewide. It's affected. So that's what I wanted to say in reference to what we dealt with from my point as an elderly back home. And it was a very struggle for us as grandparents. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Gloria. I think for sure, when we were doing this project, all that the Diné moms and dads wanted to share was to help everyone stay positive, tell them they were not alone. And so the advice that was shared was more positive a year and a half ago than now. But Ray has, since everything, the surge went down, I think the families have been stepping forward and talking about how difficult it has been. And Ray, I think he was sharing just the other day about the children, especially the boys.
Yes, I guess in a way, the things that I come upon when I visit families was a lot of time the things that they did spiritually when they needed someone to come into their home and guide them spiritually. It was a real big issue with families to seek a medicine man because of the pandemic. And so in looking at the children, I understand that they need a lot of guidance because of our language. It's kind of drifting away from us, and then also looking at our culture and tradition. We know that the children are not being given as much information about what it is to be a Navajo. So that's one of the things that I do, is to try to give them some information about how it is that each family, they can help their youngsters to identify with themselves. So that's a big part of my job, is to help families look at that.
In terms of what our program tried to do during the pandemic, especially Ray and Gloria, we did our best, but it seems that the most important thing that I think that was done was to allow families themselves to give advice and teach, rather than be a type of program that tries to tell you how it's done, and then in a way to have the families themselves identify the exact core of something, especially during the pandemic. I think that what it did for us as a program was bring us very close, especially to be advised by all the families at the time.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up another area that has gone through. We have individuals who have not been vaccinated. They're not, that's their choice, but it's really up to them as to how they're going to protect the people, and as well as getting the protection for those that are not vaccinated. So it was somewhat difficult, and it's a challenge still right now to have individuals comply with the process. Although we say that they have to go through the process along with everybody else, there's still reluctancy on the reservation. We do find people in that category. So how we approach those individuals is what we talk to them about, to give them some sense of awareness as to what we're going through. When we talk to them, right off, they would say that they don't want to get vaccinated. So we talk about issues like falling back in the history of what our people have gone through. Many years ago, viruses have come across the reservation, and how they were vaccinated or immunized with that. So through the process, we try to tell them that, in our history, our people have gone through this process as well. This is not our first time going through this. So the understanding is that right now, our children, our grandchildren, are still growing, and they're in school, and they're beginning to get to where they wish to be and what they want to do. So what we tell them from elderly's aspect is that, okay, lines have been set up for us from the school districts, from the school education system, that your child has to be vaccinated. If you have an immunization record, by all means, provide that. Or they'll tell you that you have to get your child vaccinated with this first before you enroll. So those are some of the concepts that we try to let them understand what we're going through. So right now, the current status as to where we're at, that's what we're telling them, that to some extent, I'm not sure if it's going to come back as a requirement, but heads up, this is where we're going. We're going forward, but please understand that this is what we've gone through in the past as our history. Is what I tell them. That's how I approach them. So I'm not changing your mind, is what I say. I'm not changing your mind, but this is our history, what we've gone through. That's my approach in having them understand what we're dealing with as COVID-19.
Yeah. Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, that is that is the current situation. But back in 2020, everything was shut down. Everything was locked down. It was really unimaginable how tough it was on the reservation. And then now it's reopened. It's a whole different ball game. And at the time, I think all the elderlies were bearing the brunt of the surge. So I think that it was recorded at the time that very, very high percentage of people were getting vaccinated at the time. And now it's all changed now. The surge has subsided and it's reopening, and it's really hard to imagine why the attitude has changed. It's difficult to understand, and that's something that we are working to understand why it is, but it's partly they don't want to vaccinate the little ones. It might be, but it seems also that adults also are not addressing that. But at the time of this project, so many people submitted advice during that period of such a short time, and everyone was lining up for vaccines at the time. It's really hard to imagine now. Everything is different. But is it something we want to do? We want to revisit all the essays that were submitted. So I'm going to click on it. So families were asked to submit just advice and how they were handling things at home. And they also sent pictures in of their families. And I'm going to start off and then hand it off to Vi. Sound good to you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is from a family of a medically fragile 6-year-old in Shiprock. Grandma, grandpa, uncle, and great aunt take turns to do what each does best. Reading, playing games, wagon rides when it's nice, teaching to get along with pets, exercising, computer table, colors, numbers, songs, toys, and prayer. And this is the advice. By practicing family cohesion, it makes it stronger to handle the restriction placed on us. As a family, we each have part in my granddaughter's life, have a spiritual foundation, and when hard time comes, it makes the problem easier to handle. As elders, show our children and grandchildren that no matter the hardship we are all going through, the house will not fall down. That foundation, which is prayers and living environment, will provide cohesion to family for us to survive. I love my family so much.
Another story is take a moment for yourself. from families of 3-year-old in NHA Mesa View of Inapi. A mom, grandma, and aunt all help picking up homework, doing homework, and making sure each get a rest when needed. Each eat healthy and get outside for fresh air. Some advice I have for other is asking for help is okay and will help you keep going. Stay positive and keep on in life. When you feel overwhelmed, take a moment for yourselves. Get some fresh air and take some deep breath. Remind yourself of all the good you have in life.
The next one is from a family of 6-year-old in Torreon, whose mom commutes to Crown Point and grandma comes daily, wakes up the little one, gets her ready for Zoom class, makes sure she is on task, gives her meals and art projects and games, including Navajo string game, until mom comes home. So the advice is, since COVID, my family and I have been working and supporting each other to ensure that we create a safe, balanced environment for my daughter. This has been a very uncertain, difficult time, and if I were to provide a small piece of advice to other families, it would be stay positive, stay home, and live in faith.
Communicate and talk. From family of 9-year-old with hyperplasia and Gamerco. Uncle and aunt look after him and grandparents come by often to give them a relief. Medical care is through telehealth and everyone is careful to isolate in 2 households and able to relax, learn, visit, and play safely together. The only advice for other families is to communicate and talk about how one feels about their day, how school goes on a daily basis, how was work today. There are days when someone is overwhelmed, and my husband and I try to help each other with daily tasks, especially that the children are home 24/7.
The next one is from a family in Ianbito who work as a team to care for 3 kids, sharing childcare responsibilities with maternal and paternal grandmas, father, mom, and 2 households. They have online learning, guitar, nature walks, tending 2 gardens, and chores. We relieve each other so there's time to ourselves. My husband and I plan special dinner dates where all of us cook together, watch a family movie, go for a family walk or bike ride, and take turns spending one-on-one time with each child to just talk so that we all feel loved and part of the family. Being home has brought us closer and able to communicate more with everyone. We have an hour each evening from 5 to 6 that we designate for personal time. We all get 1 hour to do whatever we want separately, then come back together for dinner time. It has been greatly beneficial to us to be able to live with a schedule that is not dominated by the world. We have been grateful to be able to incorporate kinship at this level and fortunate that we have our parents to assist in childcare needs. Many families are in so many different situations, but one thing we can rely on is our consistent expression of love and communication. Use this time to talk to your children and get to know them on a personal level. We need to enjoy our children and value the time we have with them while they are growing. Parenting is not easy. We learn together and need to utilize our family to help raise our children. We only get one life with our children, and we must make the best of it. We have a double standard to raise our Diné children strong, to continue our traditions and knowledge in an ever-changing society. Be understanding, calm, and loving in raising your children, during these harsh times.
Okay. You're the warrior. Warriors don't give up and they don't back down. Pick up your sword and shield and fight. From a hogback family of medically frail 6-year-old requiring round-the-clock care since birth, and heart and lung defects and on nighttime ventilator. Since COVID, grandparents' physical support no longer possible. Dad works out of state. So 16-year-old teenage brother now is the primary physical help to mom and gives her relief. The little one is her mom's heart warrior. Meanwhile, family members deliver food and supplies, but no one allowed to come inside. I know that self-care is important so that I can continue to provide the best care possible for my daughter too. As for advice, all I can say is that everything should be taken a day at a time. There is no way to rush for things to happen. We are all given the opportunity to be great, and nothing less will ever do. Each new day brings a new start. Times can be difficult, but it's how we choose to handle it that will get us through the storm. Love one another and cherish the moments together. I've learned that life isn't always fair, but when I look at my heart warrior and how hard the fight to be here, our journey is not in vain. We are not alone. There are so many amazing people I have had the pleasure of meeting before and during the pandemic. We all have the strength to stand on our own 2 feet and use our voice to ask for help. And in return, we can help others along the way as well. I will end the email with a favorite quote of mine that reminds me of my daughter and my big battles that she faces in this life and hers. You're a warrior. Warriors don't give up and they don't back down. Put up your sword and shield and fight.
Thank you. Bye.
I just did a video yesterday talking about depending on our prayers to get us through a lot of things. And with the Navajo people, Diné, we always depend on our prayers, that they can be real and that we can depend on it. So in my presentation, I always try to end it with a song. And these songs were meant to inspire people about what it is that we go through. So I'm gonna end it with the song. Hey yo, yo, hey 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 yo, hey. Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hey yo, hey yo. Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hustling, Hosanna, hustling. Thank you.
Okay. Elvira, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is Gloria going to be joining us as well?
She's sitting here next to me. I'm right here.
Okay, so do you want me to reference you two as using one screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Should I just submit everyone, Laura?
Oh, nice. I think with the blurred background, it could be, okay, perfect. Y'all are going in and out, but that's okay. We can't see you right now, Elvira. Now we can, but then we can't see Gloria. If it gets too bad, I guess you can turn off the blur effect. So we can see you both.
Should I admit everyone?
Sure.
give it
Elvira
a
and
moment.
Gloria, do you feel ready if we let folks in for the Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just admit all. Hello, everyone. I'm going to give everyone a few moments just to have your guys' audio connect. And then we'll get started in a minute or two. You all please feel free to turn your cameras on. I would love for this to be more of a discussion-based format, but you also are more than welcome to keep your cameras off if you feel most comfortable with that. And then we'll introduce our speakers for today. So thank you all for watching the video and for joining the Zoom session. Okay, I think we can get started. So Elvira, Gloria, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name's Elvira Dennison. I work with Navajo Family Voices as a family mentor. I am originally from Nosh City, New Mexico on the Navajo Nation. I have 2 children. One is 12-year-old son and 18-year-old daughter. They're both, they are healthcare need kids. And I've been working with Navajo Family Voices for about, I guess, 3 years. My clan is Hodegorjinsman, one Thunder Bushes Chain, Kohana Dasha Che, Chitni Dasha Nova. Then I'll pass it to Gloria to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Gloria Dennison. I'm on board with the traditional mentor as part of the program with Navajo Family Voice. And I also am a resident of Nash City, New Mexico, an elderly person from the community, as well as serve in other leadership role. So pretty quite busy with a lot of things getting involved. Some are on volunteer services currently. So that's me.
Well, thank you both so much for those brief introductions. I think I speak for everyone when I say that I thought the entire presentation was very powerful and it was very meaningful to hear from the both of you. I also really resonated with the communication that both love and communication are necessary during this time. So thank you both so much for that. I have a few questions, but I wanted to open the floor if anyone had any questions or any comments that they wanted to say. You can feel free to unmute yourself or drop them in the chat.
I was wondering, is there a way for us to go back and read what you read during the presentation of the families' stories and their perspectives?
That stories, you can access it on our website, NavajoFamilies.org.
Thank you.
NavajoFamilyVoices.org.
I just put the website link in the chat if you would like to check out their website. Yeah, I had one question for you all, but I want to say thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and I thought it was really interesting of your message of spreading awareness about becoming vaccinated during this pandemic. I wanted to know if either of you guys have found that the methods that were used to educate people have been found to be effective by referencing history.
The way we talk to each other on the Navajo reservation, we use the concept of meaning that we respect our people. As elderly, that's how we talk to our children. And most of the ones that are understanding is how we approach them. They look up to us and they more or less think of us as we're the leaders in a family setting. So they listen to the elderly when it comes to situation that is challenging. If they don't have that understanding, they will come to the elderly to seek ideas or guidance as how they can proceed with a certain situation that they're in. So it's likely that the elderlies are the spokespersons of each family that will bring those up to them, and that understanding is still within the family. So when it comes out to a community level, they still respect the elderlies in that format. So when it comes to a certain subject, that's what they listen to, either be what they are living with in today's life or something that has been that has happened in the future, or that would happen in the future, or may have happened in the history. So we have to let them know where we're coming in from. So that understanding is well understood, that they weren't there when it happened, but at least they have an idea that our people have gone through that before, and we understand that we have to deal with it. And they may understand with today's medical terms as to what they can do, but elderlies have their own ways of doing certain things as well. So they resort back to what was brought up in the past as to what they use to express as well as cure their ailments. So that's what they tell them. Majority of the young folks right now after the pandemic, that's what they look forward to. They want to go back to their culture and have a better understanding of what was brought up when the elders were brought up in the young days. So we have to somewhat go back and teach them that this is what we found and is workable. So that understanding is coming back into play right now, because we kind of like the coworker there, Mr. Deal, mentioned that we've kind of lost our language, but to some extent, I believe that that's going to be coming back and have a better understanding with our children, because even my grandkids, they ask me, where do you find those herbs? Where can we look for herbs of that nature to help us heal? That's what they're talking about right now. So some of the local community colleges, they're also teaching or have studies in those identifying which can be used. So I think it's going to be an ongoing process for our people, our Native people, our Navajo people, and our children. So we've got a task to do as elderlies, to work with our children and have a better understanding. And to some extent, there's an awareness involved as to what we've gone through. So I think it's a better understanding to stay within the home with the family and talk to one another in that way. I think that's better for them right now. And it's hard. It is hard. Still, some of them have their own traumas that they have dealt with. And those are the ones that are kind of like difficult to work with. And it's a challenge for us as mentors on how to reach and have a better understanding. So it varies with each family. They're not all the same. And then how we talk to them are not the same as well. It depends on how they express their feelings. So we have to come in from that aspect to understand what they're going through. So that's how we handle that with our Native people. And we do have a lot of other activities that are ongoing that kind of like assist them as well on the reservation, which is good too. It's kind of like a partnership as well. So we're part of that group, so it's understandable that it's a big impact for our people to have awareness and understanding.
So I have a follow-up question to something that you just said, but I was wondering if during this time, during the pandemic, do you find that the elderly have had to be supported the most in the community? Or I know that the children were referenced many times as well.
To some extent, just like the comments that were read from these individuals who made responses reference to that, and they alluded to their elderly grandparents. And I think they have an idea as to where they can be secured to some extent if they still have their grandparents. So because of that, our children has that understanding, our kids have that understanding that, you know, elders are more important. Because before, it seems like, yes, we're just there as elders. And, but lately that has a turnaround. And people are looking out for their elders now to see where they're at, to see where they're going, to see if they need help. So that's ongoing as well, between being a partnership with our children as well as grandparents. So we have the middle person as the parent. So that bonding comes into play at that time. And then also, not only our Navajo children, we do have multicultural families that have come about with different tribes as our grandkids. So we also have to have that respect, and we have to have some sort of blending culture that we have to also go beyond our own culture. So we have to look out for those and trying to identify to see where they're coming from and see if they have any background as far as where they're coming out from, which tribe. So those are still happening right now. Not only indigenous people, but we do have like Hispanics. We still have other nationalities that have come into the families on the reservation. So they are still part of our grandchildren. That's how we acknowledge them. So that's how we're working with them. So we're trying to get this blended families finding their identity. That way it'll be easier for everyone across the reservation to see where they're coming in from. That includes the schools. We're trying to advocate on behalf of our grandchildren that we have family members that are coming from different tribes as well as different nationalities. So we're still addressing them at the school level as parents, grandparents. So that's how we're coming to currently as the post-COVID, that we're going that direction right now.
Thank you so much for sharing. I also was wondering what positive aspects came out from this pandemic and things that you hope might continue from it.
To me, what I see as a grandmother, I'm a 70-year-old grandmother right now. And I see my grandkids going to the extent of relearning majority of the things that they've watched us handle with the COVID. I'm aware that they're asking questions, questioning us as to how to go about things. And some questions is that, I wish I knew what that was. I wish I knew where to find it. I wish I know how to speak to it. Those are some of the comments that are coming out from our grandkids now. So we're trying to help them in some ways to have a better understanding after COVID, that, you know, we can come back together and relearn together. Even as me being a grandmother at this age, sometimes I forget things. And when a question pops up like that from a young child, you have to think back and figure out, okay, where was it? And it's just like
what my daughter made reference to when she said that they have data collections, and all this information that they collected as their data, background information. As an elderly, being a Navajo, that's what we have to do. Although it's not written out for us, we have to think back. We have to think way back to see what was told to us. Even with my parents, as to what they dealt with, they did tell us what they dealt with during those pandemics that had happened in the past. And it's not only one, maybe several times that they've gone through. And then what they would use as an herb to live along with everything that they have so far. And yes, of course, they lost people, is what they say. We lost loved ones, but still the surviving people is who we are. That's how they used to talk to us. So that's all I have to tell you, that, you know, generation after generation, we had to move on and just carry that story with us to let them know that, you know, in the future, this is what you're going to be going through. In the future, be aware, is what we tell them.
Thank you. I'm now going to open up the floor again if anyone has any questions that they wanted to ask the presenters before we wrap up the discussion.
Not a question, but I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your stories and your experiences and your perspective. It's been, I feel really honored to get to hear them.
Yes, thank you both so much for the video and then also just joining us afterwards for this Q&A session. It absolutely meant a lot. So thank you very much. With that, we can wrap this up. Everyone give a big thank you to the presenters. Thank you so much, Elvira, and also Gloria, for being on here to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.